Welcome back once again, hockey fans. We have reached part 3 of our series chronicling the Hall of Fame career of defenseman Paul Coffey. If you have not seen the first part, chronicling his glorious years with the Oilers, or the second part where we cover his time in Pittsburgh, check those out before you watch this one. But if you have, here we go. When we last left you, Coffey's time in Pittsburgh came to an end. The team was having trouble dealing with new head coach Scotty Bowman. The Pens coach who guided them to the Stanley Cup the year prior was Badger Bob Johnson, who tragically passed away from brain cancer at the age of 60 a few months later. Bowman was not a fan of Coffey and his style. While he recognized his talent, he felt that he wasn't a fit for this Pittsburgh team anymore, and general manager Craig Patrick agreed. They felt that Larry Murphy was a better fit for the team long term, and they traded Coffey to LA, in a deal which was sort of like an unofficial 3-team trade, where they used a lot of members of that trade to obtain Rick Tocchet from Philadelphia. Coffey struggled a bit in LA at first, both with injuries and consistency issues. He did show signs of his old self in the playoffs, but the Kings were unseated by the Oilers in 6 games. However, going into the 1992-93 season, Coffey looked like he was settling into LA. He was excited to play alongside some of his old Oilers teammates such as Charlie Huddy, Marty McSorley, Jari Kurri, and of course, Wayne Gretzky. However, Gretzky's back injuries could no longer be ignored. He gritted through the 91-92 season with them still lingering, but now he had to do something about it. The Kings were going to have to begin the season without him, and they still had a talented core. While Jari Kurri wasn't racking up monster numbers, he was still very effective. Luc Robitaille was among the top 3 left wingers in the league and having really good seasons. Also on defense, Huddy and McSorley were key in terms of experience along with Coffey, but he had 2 young blue liners who would go on to have great careers. 20-year-old rookie Darryl Sador, and the third-year 23-year-old and future Hall of Famer Rob Blake. The Kings seemed to miss Gretzky in many ways, obviously, but the team got off to a really good start. 19-7-3 by December 9th, and unbeaten in 8 of their last 9, and were in first place in the Smythe division, staying a good 6 points ahead second-place Calgary Flames. In that time, Coffey had 6 goals and 23 assists for 29 points in 29 games, and had yet to miss a game all season, averaging literally a point a game. At this point, he was coming off 8 points in 2 games as a matter of fact, and was on a roll. He was a +9 at the time and tied for 3rd in defenseman scoring. And the Kings as a whole, thanks to new rookie head coach Barry Melrose, were finding ways to win without their best player, as Luc Robitaille was on his way to a career year at that point. 22 goals, 20 assists for 42 points, and was among the top leaders in scoring. But Jari Kurri was back to his old self, it seemed. 17 goals, 33 assists for 50 points, and was tied for 2nd in the league in scoring. But then some problems hit. The Kings started rolling down the hill, and going into the January 6th game at home against the expansion Tampa Bay Lightning, the Kings were on an 8-game winless streak. Coffey, for the most part, however, was still consistent in this time with 2 goals, 7 assists for 9 points in those 8 games, but he was a -4. Kurri struggled as well. He'd gone goalless in several games, but did have 7 assists, but was a -6. Robitaille, however, stayed hot with 11 points, but he was a -3. This night was important, not just for the Kings to snap their skid. After 39 games, Wayne Gretzky was back. At last, this combination can come together at last. No, they lose to Tampa Bay 6-3 at home. Hey. Both Gretzky and Coffey play well, but the Kings' woes continue. In this time, Paul Coffey is among leaders in fan voting and will yet again start the NHL All-Star Game, which he has every year since fan voting began in 1986. Clearly, he remained popular not just where he played, but as well as cities where he did play, and also across the league he had a significant following. A few people seem to forget that. Also, his Kings jersey was a big seller. Going into the 50th game of the year, however, now 10 games back with Gretzky in the lineup, the Kings were winning a little bit here and there, but still only 4-6 since his return. They were coming off a dominant win over the San Jose Sharks, where Coffey was amazing and had 5 assists and was the game's first star. The Kings had slipped to 3rd place and were in danger of slipping to 4th, as the Winnipeg Jets had been red hot at this point and were just behind Calgary, who was their next opponent on that evening of January 28th. A win would pull them back to within a point of 2nd place. The game was a tight-knit battle as Flames backup goaltender Jeff Reese and the Kings' Kelly Hrudey put on a clinic. But the Kings would drop this one 2-1. Coffey was on ice for both Flames' goal and was a -2. Not the worst game of his career, but still not a great one. No pun intended. It was Paul Coffey's last game as an LA King. Are you kidding me? You fight to get this guy last year. He's adjusting to the lineup, holding the loadout with Curry and Robitaille until Gretzky can come back. They hit a skid where, yes, some games he played poorly, but no worse than anyone else did. And, wait, never mind. This is simply the brilliance of Los Angeles Kings general manager Nick Beverly, who is about as brilliant as I am clean-shaven. I have a beard, trust me. So the day after the loss to Calgary, he trades Coffey to the Detroit Red Wings, along with former junior star minor leaguer Sylvain Couturier, I did not pronounce that right, I know, grinding right winger Jim Hiller, in exchange for Jimmy Carson, a former 100-point player, you know, the guy Edmonton traded Gretzky for and never really recovered from that, tough guy Mark Potvin, and Gary Shuchuk, who on his best day is maybe a third liner. But he was having a pretty good minor league career, to be fair. Oh, apparently the Kings needed depth, yet Coffey was loved by guys like Sador and Blake, and as a 13-year veteran, was taking his mentorship role very seriously. An LA Times article had statements from Coffey about how unhappy he was leaving already, as he came to play alongside Wayne and they barely got the chance. Nick Beverly and Barry Melrose proved that they don't know when they defended this deal. Melrose said how they were putting their future in the hands of their kids. Oh yes, Sador and Blake would go on to be great, but Sador would do that elsewhere, while Blake became great in LA, granted, but was drowning there in the end. But Coffey was 31 years old, and the healthiest he'd been in a while. He was in great shape, had a good training camp, and was doing really well among defensemen in scoring. In second place, only a point behind Phil Housley. He was also a +9, which was only second on Rob Blake among defensemen in that category. This wasn't a give-up one, sacrifice another scenario like Pittsburgh, where Coffey was a part of a bigger deal, again an unofficial three-way trade, which to be fair, for Pittsburgh at least worked for them at that time. But they still believed Carson could be the guy he was when he played with them nearly 5 years ago, and while he was having a decent year in Detroit, he was a far cry from what he was. Either way, Coffey's days in Los Angeles were over, and starting with his reunion with Curry, both were having a great year. Curry had slipped, but was still among leading scorers. Curry had 21 goals during the 50 games where Coffey was on the team, and he assisted on 5 of them. Tied for third best, just one behind Thomas Sandstrom at second. And Robitaille, however, led the way, which is no surprise. Also on 8 of Coffey's goals, all 8 of them, Curry assisted on 2, a quarter of them. Now we go to the assist collaborators in these first 50 games. It was a very tight race. Robitaille wins out by 1 over Coffey, with Sandstrom only trailing Coffey by 1. Either way, all 3 men were significant to Curry's big start that year. Coffey there again, in no surprise. But how about Robitaille, who is having again a career year? Looking at these stats, he was moving up the scoring race past Curry. Out of Lucky Luke's 33 goals, Coffey assisted on 12 of them, best behind, yes, Yari Curry. As Coffey and Curry are the only ones that hit double digits, however, in that regard. Robitaille assisted on 2 of Coffey's goals, same as Curry, a quarter. On assist collaborations, Coffey and McSorley are tied with 3, where Curry runs away with it with 9. He and Luke were proving to be a lethal combo in Gretzky's absence, but Coffey was still a big part of that. You can see how all these players are coming together with their best player gone. Coffey was leading the team in assists at the time of his departure. So we go to Coffey's assist collaborators this time, something a little different. He had 49 at this point in the season, and it looked as if Rob Blake was really coming together with some offensive input on the road to becoming one of the best of his time. 10 collaborations between the two of them. The young defensemen really were responding to Coffey. I showed all this to prove something. As I said, this Kings team was rallying together. You're seeing lots of names, you're seeing lots of big names produce a great deal, of course. They knew what they had to do in Gretzky's absence, and yes, despite their struggles before his return and during, at least it showed some cohesiveness. Not to mention Sandstrom had missed most of the season. In the 11 games they played together, how did Gretzky and Coffey do, however? Well, Coffey had no goals, yet 12 assists, whereas Gretzky also had 12 assists with 2 goals to go with them for 14 points. It wasn't exactly their time at Edmonton, but both were still producing greatly as Gretzky was easing back into the lineup, with his ice time slowly increasing with every game. Coffey did assist on 1 of Gretzky's goals, but they only collaborated twice. They were never really given a chance much to work together the way they could on this team. But either way, this was the end for Coffey in LA. This season, with them, he had 8 goals, 49 assists for 57 points in 50 games. He was a +9 and was selected to start in fan voting at the NHL All-Star Game for a 7th straight time. His time in LA may not be remembered due to its short tenure, but I think some people wonder what it might have been, and we'll get to that later. He didn't collect any hardware except maybe a couple of jerseys he later auctioned off. you watch the Oilers video in part 1 of this series, the Red Wings were mentioned. They went from being known as the Dead Things into a playoff team when they acquired Steve Yzerman in the 1983 draft. They took the powerful Oilers to 5 games each in 1987 and 88 Campbell Conference Finals under the tenure of Jacques Demers, who brought the team to a whole new level. But they began a decline over the course of the next couple seasons, and then Brian Murray was the man who took over for Demers. He was the one who made the Capitals a perennial playoff team and was now named both coach and GM of the Detroit Red Wings. His first year was rough in 1990-91, but they made the playoffs. The year after, they won first place in the Norris Division, got past the first round, but were swept up by Chicago. In the 1992-93 season, the man himself, however, was still on fire, that being Steve Yzerman, who was eyeing his 6th consecutive 100-point season. And this Wings team that Coffey was joining had everything a star player of his caliber needed around him, including a great leader in Steve Yzerman, a coach and a GM who knew how to build from the ground up. Other great talents such as Sergei Fedorov, Ray Shepard, and our old pal, Dynamo Dino Ciccarelli. And on defense, Coffey was joining one of the best cores in the league, veteran Mark Howe, the highly underrated Steve Chesson, hard-hitting Vladimir Konstantinov, and sophomore Swedish import Nicholas Lidstrom, coming off a great rookie campaign. Coffey's arrival was met with fanfare. It was hard to keep his jersey on the racks. Detroit was ready for their cup of coffee. When Coffey joined the Wings, however, they were 28-20-5 for 61 points, clinging on to second place by a point over the Minnesota North Stars. They were 8 points behind the high-powered Blackhawks. Coffey made his debut for the Wings on January 30th in a game against one of the best teams in the league, the Vancouver Canucks. What? I'm serious. Around this time, they were really good. Anyway, it was a 4-4 tie and Coffey amassed 2 assists. He had a goal and 2 assists, however, in the next game, a 5-0 win, a huge win over first-place Chicago. Coffey was comfortable as a Red Wing, and again, youngsters like Lidstrom were really taking to him. The Wings went on an absolute tear. Even though Coffey's scoring production may have slowed just a little bit, he was still a major part of this team challenging for first place. Without Coffey, the Wings' record was 28-20-5. In the remaining 31 games, they went 19-8-4. The Red Wings finished 47-28-9, 103 points, their first 100-point season in franchise history. Coffey was brought in for playoff experience as well, which the Wings could definitely use at this point. The Kings, however, finished their season 15-14-5 in the remaining 34 games after Coffey was shipped away. However, Jari Kurri was averaging 1.3 points a game with Coffey on the team. Robitaille was averaging 1.32, and both were among the league leaders in scoring in the top 10 at that time. Kurri slipped dramatically, even with Gretzky back in the lineup, and had to run 0.7 points a game and would barely crack the top 30 scorers in the league. Robitaille, however, just got hotter, averaging 1.7 points a game the remainder of the season, and finished with a career-high 125 on the year. That was good for 9th in the league. Can you believe that? Say anyone would finish first with that. Either way, a banner year for Lucky Luke, and it showed that Melrose really did feel about his kids, because Kurri took a backseat when Gretzky returned. Backwards thinking, methinks. But good old Stevie Y, Steve Yzerman, how did he finish that year? How did Coffey gel with him? Well, Steve Yzerman had 58 goals and 79 assists for 137 points. Good enough for 4th in the league. Yikes. Before the trade, Yzerman had 37 goals and 36 assists for 73 points in 53 games, averaging 1.37 points a game, incredible even by his standards. After Coffey's arrival, Yzerman netted 21 goals and 43 assists for 64 points. That's almost 2.1 points a game. No coincidence, I say. So now let's look at how they benefited each other in the trade. Coffey only assisted on 1 Yzerman goal, shocking indeed. Coffey only scored 4 goals that year with the Red Wings, but Yzerman assisted on 3 of them, 75%. So he didn't make a difference, huh? Did he? Well, Coffey was changing up his game. He knew the game was changing, and he knew he'd have to tweak certain things about it too. He was already a great assist power throughout his entire career, but now that was his primary focus, and was actually playing the best actual defense of his career once he joined the Red Wings. Now let's look at Yzerman's assist collaborations, and Paul Coffey comes in second, only to Dino Ciccarelli, who'd been playing on a line with Yzerman all season. And again, that's amazing Coffey could reach those numbers in just less than half a season. Coffey was able to reach double digits in teaming on assists with Yzerman, whose assist game took a great turnaround once Coffey joined the team. That sounds familiar. Coffey's time in Detroit so far has been outstanding. 4 goals, 26 assists for 30 points in 30 games, and is a +7. Plays in his 11th NHL All-Star game and helps the Red Wings to their best season ever. Just 3 points back of first place Chicago. To end his season, Coffey finished second in defenseman scoring, just behind Phil Housley. Unfortunately, despite his good year, he came in 9th in Norris Trophy voting. Perhaps playing on 2 teams might have been his stigma. Yes, it has to be discouraging to be one of the best in the league and being traded twice within a year, but Coffey was starting to look very comfortable in Detroit, and now it was playoff time. And awaiting them, the Toronto Maple Leafs, one of the biggest turnaround stories that year, who finished with 99 points, their best season in franchise history as well. This was going to be a pretty evenly matched series. The Leafs were no longer a joke, at least not back then. They were resurgent with Doug Gilmour, who had an MVP caliber season, power play scoring machine Dave Anderchuk, who they acquired mid-season, as well as Wendell Clark, veterans Mike Foligno, and former Coffey teammate Glenn Anderson, a young defense being led by veteran Todd Gill, and a young goaltender Felix the Cat Potvin, all coached by Bernsey. It was go time. So one of the oldest rivalries in hockey was ready to write a new chapter. In the first 2 games, Detroit absolutely lit up Felix Potvin with successive 6-3 and 6-2 victories. Coffey has 5 assists so far, and the Wings look to finish Toronto off quick. However, that's not the case, as in Toronto, the Leafs roar back. Potvin makes 34 saves, Gilmour has a big night, while Yzerman and Ciccarelli are held off the score sheet. Game 4 is a bit tighter, but Potvin is again outstanding. The Leafs win 3-2, and again, Yzerman and Ciccarelli are nowhere to be found. Coffey has 2 points in the 2 road games. The series shifts back to Detroit for Game 5. The Red Wings blow a 4-1 lead, and Mike Foligno scores an overtime winner just a couple of minutes in. Not a great night for Coffey, and Yzerman hasn't registered 1 point in 3 games. Now the Wings head back to Toronto, facing elimination. The Wings, however, make an emphatic statement with a dominant 7-3 win, sending a message to the Leafs that they are not going quietly, or maybe not even at all. Coffey has a huge 4-point night, and Yzerman breaks his slump. We're going to the 7th and deciding game. Detroit has the game in hand, and time is ticking down, leading 3-2, but Gilmour, with just 2:43 to play, comes up in the clutch to tie it. We go to overtime, and the Leafs win their first playoff series since 1987, as Bob Rouse's shot is tipped in by Nikolai Borshevsky, and the Wings are sunk. Coffey is held pointless. A disappointing end to so much promise this year. Coffey, however, played very well in the series. 2 goals, 9 assists, for 11 points in those 7 games. And only second in scoring in the whole series behind the Leafs is Doug Gilmour. It was just too much for Yzerman to handle, and Stevie Y's play in Ciccarelli's was also a disappointment. All led to the Wings' loss. Coffey brought his playoff experience, but the Wings didn't bring much else to go with it. And as for the Kings, well, okay, they didn't win the Cup, but they score a minor upset over Calgary, bigger upset over the Canucks. Then they meet the Leafs in the conference final, blah blah blah, Game 6 high stick, Gary Fraser bad man, blah 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 blah, Leaf fans whine about it for 29 years, blah blah blah, series goes to Game 7, blah blah blah, Gretzky plays the game of his career, and the Kings are going to their first Stanley Cup Finals. Yes, the 3rd straight team Coffey has left when they went to the Cup. But it's okay, my boy Patrick Waugh kicked their ass, and the Canadiens won it in 5 games. Still, does this mean Coffey is truly expendable? The first time it was a contract dispute. The second time, the team was headed in a different direction, but this time you have to wonder. Had Coffey played in this series? You never know. Him and Rob Blake made life very difficult for the Habs, but we never will find out. Still, Coffey can be proud of this season. 12 goals, 75 assists, for 87 points in 80 games, second amongst defensemen in scoring, a +16, his highest since leaving Edmonton, played in his 11th NHL All-Star game, helped the Red Wings to their best regular season ever, and was 9th in Norris Trophy voting. Paul Coffey had showed the world that he was far from done in the 92-93 season, and going into the 93-94 season, he would show that he still had a lot left to give and was going to give it all to this Red Wings club. After their first-round exit in the 92-93 season, however, Brian Murray decided to step away from the bench and simply focus on being the general manager. So of course he would need to hire a new coach, one who can hopefully bring this team to the next step. His name? Scotty Bowman. Yes, the very same Scotty Bowman who didn't care much for Coffey in Pittsburgh. The same Scotty Bowman who sent Coffey on this whirlwind of the last year but prior. You mean to tell me Coffey is stuck with him again? Does this mean Paul's time in Detroit will be as short or even shorter than his time in LA? Well, that would be a no. Apparently Bowman and Coffey really didn't have many issues at this point when he arrived in Detroit. As a matter of fact, Bowman actually liked the way Coffey was playing at this time. Well, the two never became the best of friends, at least they were on the same page at this time. Bowman left the Penguins after guiding them to that cursed President's Trophy for first place overall in 1992-93. I hear that saw Mario Lemieux make a miraculous comeback after a shocking cancer diagnosis that year. The team, however, suffered one of the biggest playoff upsets of all time, losing to the New York Islanders in 7 games in the Patrick Division Final. And Bowman felt Craig Patrick was shortchanging him, so he took a lucrative deal to coach the Red Wings. And right away, he had a positive effect on the team. Sergei Fedorov had always been a talented forward in his short career thus far, but it was when he started playing a little more of a defensive game he was becoming a top all-around player. Yzerman was still a beast as well, however. He would battle injuries this season, missing 26 games, yet was still highly productive when he was in action. As for our hero, he was really developing on his actual defensive play, which was Bowman's specialty. Coffey, along with the crew of Lidstrom, Howe, Chiasson, and Konstantinov, were developing very nicely. The Red Wings finished for a record of 46-30-8 for 100 points. First place in the Western Conference, 4th best record in the league. As for our hero, he had 14 goals and 63 assists for 77 points. For the first time since his rookie year, he failed to average a point a game. And for only the 3rd time in all his 14-season career, he failed to reach the top 5 defensive scores. He was 6th, however, and was a plus 28. The point was, however, the other defensemen were thriving around him. Konstantinov was a plus 30, and Fedorov, who played a lot of defense that year and won the Selke Trophy to prove it, to go along with his Hart Trophy for MVP, was a plus 48, 2nd best in the league. Coffey was creating a presence with this core, and Fedorov also finished 2nd in league scoring. As for Norris Trophy voting, Coffey finished 7th. How did our hero fare with the star, or shall we say stars, as Sergei Fedorov and Steve Yzerman were pretty much neck and neck with that mantle? We'll start with Stevie Y. He had 24 goals and 58 assists for 82 points in just 58 games, so averaging a big 1.4 points a game. Out of his 24 goals, Coffey assisted on 10 of them, tied with Ray Shepard for best on the team, at around 41.7%. Out of Coffey's 14 goals, Yzerman assisted on none. But let's go to assist collaborations, as Coffey ties a lead at 12 with Keith Primo, who along with Ray Shepard were also having incredible seasons, as this team was really coming together. As for Fedorov, he had 56 goals and 64 assists for 120 points in 82 games, averaging nearly 1.5 points a game. As for how he fared with Coffey, well, Coffey assisted on 9 goals, tied with Dino Ciccarelli for 2nd best, nearly 16.1%, while Slava Kozlov ran away with that stat. Wait a second, Kozlov, Fedorov, Konstantinov, that's 3, something he's missing. Anyway, Fedorov also assisted on 2 of Coffey's goals, but for our hero, it was Slava Kozlov and Nick Lidstrom who he clicked with the most in that regard. As for assist collaborations with the 1994 League MVP, Coffey came in 3rd with 7, but he and Lidstrom are the only 2 players to make the list of both Yzerman and Fedorov. Coffey has combined 19 assists with both these star players. That's the best out of anyone. This Red Wings team looked poised and primed to take the Western Conference, and yes, the conferences have been renamed, so the divisions and the playoff format has been changed as well, as the 2 division leaders take the top 2 playoff spots, and the rest of the subsequent order goes from 3rd place to 8th in the whole conference. So that meant the Detroit Red Wings, who were top seeded, meaning they would face the upstart San Jose Sharks, only in their, 3rd year of existence. And despite their modest 33, 35, and 16 record for 82 points, that's actually up from the 24 points they had the year prior, one of the biggest turnaround stories in league history they were. The difference maker was the acquisition of Soviet legend Sergei Makarov, and they also had another Russian import, Igor Larionov. Where have I had that name before? Never mind. And also Sandis Ozolic, their young star defenseman and sensational goaltender from Latvia, Arturs Urbe. Look, Sharks, it's admirable you made the playoffs, but this team you're facing is going to destroy you. Steve Yzerman, however, is day-to-day with injury issues and won't be dressed for Game 1, but here we go. Sharks prepare to get eaten. Wait, the Sharks won? 5-4. Coffey doesn't play well. Urbe is amazing in goal. Bob Essensa is not amazing in goal, and the Red Wings are down a game. But hey, that's okay. Playoff upsets tend to happen. We can't let it linger. And hey, there you go. The Red Wings take game 2, 4-0. Coffey, Lidstrom, and Konstantinov are amazing. Rookie goalie Chris Osgood gets a shutout, and this series is tied. The next 3 games are in San Jose due to this very bizarre playoff format. But the Wings take the series lead. It's a tight one, though. A 3-2 win. The defense is again on point. Urbe stands on his head, but it's not enough. San Jose lose. Take your hats off for an incredible run, Sharks. But wait, the Wings lose game 4? They lose 4-3? Seems as though Larionov and Makarov are a duo to be reckoned with for this game. Osgood does not look good, as the last 4 letters on his name might suggest. The series is tied 2-2. Game 5, Steve Yzerman is back. He notches 2 assists, and Coffey has 3 points, and it makes no difference. The Sharks win 6-4. Are you f***ing kidding me? The Wings are on the verge of elimination, going back for the next 2 games in Detroit. Larionov and Makarov are really starting to take it to the Wings as they combine for 3 points in that huge Game 5. Uh-oh. You awoke a sleeping giant, Sharks. The Wings are alive again. 7-1 win. Coffey, Stevie Y, Fedorov, Cicarelli, Kozlov all play huge games. Well, Sharks, you made it thrilling, but it's now time for Game 7, and Garpenlov scores less than a minute in. Okay, well, it's still very early. And Makarov, curse you! Oh my God, and Larionov assisted on both Sharks goals, and they're up 2-0. And Draper, yes, Chris Draper, 2-1 after 1. And hey, it's tied! Kozlov, you marvelous man. Oh, wow, this is thrilling. It's in the 3rd period now, and Jamie Baker, okay, but come on, Wings, you can still tie this in that clutch. So many clutch players on this team, and none of them came through. None of them. The Sharks win. You guys lost to the f***ing San Jose Sharks. Yeah. Well, Urbe was red hot in net, and Makarov and Larionov were firing on all cylinders. Damn, if only the Red Wings had at least one of them on their team. Sorry, moving on. Yzerman's injuries didn't help, but Fedorov wasn't exactly on fire either. Coffey, on the other hand, played magnificently through most of the series. 1 goal, 6 assists for 7 points. It was a +6. There were even rumors that Scotty Bowman could be fired after this disaster, but I think they were just simply rumors. However, it was the end of the Brian Murray era in Detroit as he stepped down as general manager after 4 seasons. Coffey's year wasn't one of his best, but was still excellent in his own right. 14 goals, 63 assists for 77 points in 80 games. He plays in his 12th NHL All-Star game, is a +28, his highest mark in 8 seasons. Came in 7th in Norris voting, and most importantly, is having an impact on the 2 big stars as well as young Nick Lidstrom. Coffey has truly become a tried and true leader. Still though, the San Jose Sharks. To begin the 1994-95 season, well, there was no action. A lockout thanks to those pesky owners deprived us of some great hockey. Sports was in terrible shape at the time. Not only was there no hockey, but the baseball season was canceled due to a strike. Should have been a World Series going around that time as well. The NBA was still doing well, but its greatest player was trying his hand at the said sport that was on strike. The NFL was celebrating its 75th anniversary, but one of its biggest heroes was about to go on trial for a heinous crime. Even here at home in Canada, where yours truly is from, the CFL was experimenting with American expansion, which went over about as well as Charlie Sheen at a feminist rally. Well, after several weeks droned on and on and on, the lockout ended by the new year, meaning there would be a shortened 48-game season where teams in the Eastern and Western Conference would only play teams in their conference. But either way, the Detroit Red Wings looked ready for battle. They looked ready to be a team to truly be reckoned with. Scotty Bowman and Jim Devellano, who was their GM 8 years back in the 1980s into the early 90s, and recently team vice president, they both took over the GM role together, assisted by their head scout, Ken Holland. Bowman's emphasis on defense was a nightmare for teams to deal with, not to mention they had a talented young sophomore goaltender and Chris Osgood, but they also acquired veteran all-star Mike Vernon, making them more dangerous in net. They tore through their conference, finishing 33-11-4 for 70 points, the league's best record, meaning they won the President's Trophy. But hey, it's not all bad, actually. I mean, the New York Rangers won it last year and ended up winning the Stanley Cup, so maybe that curse is just in my head. Our hero had one of the best years of his career. He was almost unstoppable. He was making some small tune-ups to his game, and it benefited not just him, but the Red Wings as a whole. 14 goals, 44 assists for 58 points in just 45 games. Was also a plus 18, and for the first and only time in his career, led his team in scoring. Yes, Coffey was the guy. This was mainly due to Bowman's defensive strategy. Coffey finished tied for 6th in the league in scoring, his first top 10 finish since the 1989-90 season with the Penguins, and for the 6th time in his career, finishing in the top 10. Meaning, of course, he was number 1 amongst defensemen in the league for the 8th time in his career, breaking another record held by Bobby Orr. Indeed, Coffey couldn't be stopped. Well, even though Fedorov was still their top-scoring forward, Yzerman struggled through injury. He didn't rack up a lot of points due to Bowman's system. Also, to add even more depth to their defense, the Red Wings traded a 3rd-round draft pick for Soviet icon Slava Fetisov. Okay, so there's Fedorov, Kozlov, Konstantinov, and now Fetisov, so that's 4. Anyway, due to Markow's injury issues, they added veteran defenseman Mike Ramsey as well, who Bowman drafted in Buffalo back in 1979. Oh, and I almost forgot, Norris Trophy voting? Indeed, Coffey's 3rd and final Norris Trophy win, and his first since 1986. Is indeed a big one, because the first defenseman to be a Norris Trophy finalist for 3 different teams, and get this, was 4th in Hart Trophy voting for MVP, just 1 step away from being a finalist. And his 4th first All-Star team selection is first since the 1988-89 season. He becomes the first defenseman to be a first-team All-Star with 3 different teams. It's his 4th selection on the first team and 8th overall selection in his career as an All-Star. We're still going to see how Coffey gelled with the big names on the wings. But this was a weird year, and Coffey was their top scorer, but he still assisted on a quarter of Fedorov's goals, that being 5 out of 20, tied with Slava Kozlov. As for Coffey's 14 goals, Fedorov assisted on 3 of them. As for Yzerman, who didn't have the best year, he had 12 goals and 26 assists for 38 points. On those 12 goals, Coffey only assisted on 1, but only 4 players had more than 1. As for Coffey's 14, Yzerman assisted on 5, just over a third. But now we go to my favorite status, his collaborations with Fedorov. Coffey has it locked in for first place with 7. As for Yzerman, he had 26 on the year, and again Coffey tops on that list with 8. That means Coffey, 15 of his 44 assists, that's over a third, came with the 2 franchise players. But how did Coffey do overall, since he was the one to lead the team in assists? Now we're going to find out his assist collaborations. We know who 2 of them are already. How did they do on his list? Well, to no surprise, Yzerman and Fedorov lead the way, but Keith Primo is barely behind them, while Dino Ciccarelli rounds it out. As a matter of fact, Ray Shepard is the only top forward not in the top 4, as he only had 10 assists the whole year. He was more of a goal scorer, but he still teams up with Coffey twice to set up a goal. It shows that Coffey has the same ethic he played everywhere else. The top scorers shine, and there's a big reason for it. He's everywhere, and Detroit indeed is exactly the same. So now we get to the playoffs. Again, the Red Wings are the top seed, and standing in their way are the Dallas Stars, yes, led by their sensational center, who unfortunately will miss the playoffs, Mike Modano. But they do have their top scorer in Dave Gagner, as well as devastating Hatcher brothers on defense, Kevin and Darian, an old teammate of our hero, goaltender Andy Moog. And yes, Game 1 is an exciting contest, and the Wings actually blow a 3-1 lead in the third, and the Stars tie it. However, our hero begins a play that leads to a Slava Kozlov goal midway through the frame, and that proves to be the game winner. The Wings take this one 4-3. In the second game, our hero, along with Keith Primo and that incredible Wings defense, give the Stars barely anything to work with. The Wings walk out with a 4-1 win and a 2-0 series lead heading to Dallas. Game 3 is even more dominant. Dynamo Dino nets a hat trick. Our hero and the blue line core are giving the Stars headaches. The Wings are just one game away from the sweep, but the Stars, however, have no quit in them, and they stave off elimination with a shocking 4-1 win as we head to Game 5 in Detroit. The Stars just can't solve that Red Wings defense, and poor Andy Moog is standing on his head. But it's not enough. The Red Wings are off to the second round. Coffey is excellent. A goal, 5 assists for 6 points, and a +1, tied for the series lead in points with fellow defenseman Nick Lidstrom. Next up, the San Jose Sharks. Oh, tell me we're not in for deja vu. And oh no, it's Makarov and Larionov, and now they have Craig Janney on the team and a young Ray Whitney who played very well in their opening round upset against Calgary. Oh, indeed, here we go again, the Wings. Oh man, how can we oh, never mind. They avenged last year and absolutely destroyed the Sharks in a sweep, outscoring them 24-6. Fedorov is an absolute beast both on offense and defense. 11 points in 4 games. Our hero is also doing well. 3 goals, 3 assists, 6 points, and a +5. They make their first conference final since 1988, and standing in their way are longtime division rivals, the Chicago Blackhawks. This team led one of Coffey's biggest contemporaries, Chris Chelios, as well as a resurgent Denny Savard, Bernie Nichols, JR, and in goal, Eddie the Eagle. However, the Wings get some bad news. Stevie Y will miss a few games due to injury, and the Hawks have come to play in Game 1 as both teams' defenses are not letting up in any way. It's a true playoff hockey clinic. It's going to take overtime to decide this one, but it literally only took a minute as Nick Lidstrom scores the big winner to give the Wings a series lead. Game 2 is also hotly contested as the Red Wings do solve the Chicago defense, but Belfour is sensational in goal, and the Wings are down 2-1 in the third. But Doug Brown ties it with just 1:45 to play. Our hero begins a play that allows Chris Draper to score the game winner, and the Wings have a 2-0 series lead going to the Windy City. It's a back-and-forth battle yet again. Another exciting game between these two rivals, and the Wings do bombard Belfour in Game 3, but again he is brilliant, as is the Wings defense, however. It's going to take overtime to decide this one, but it won't be so quick this time. This one overtime period won't do it, but halfway through the second OT, Russian defensive duo Fedisov and Konstantinov set up a play where the latter scored the winner to silence that ruckus Chicago crowd, and the Wings are one win away from a sweep. Our hero was playing great in this series with the rest of the Blue Liners, but the Hawks will not quit. They light up Vernon to the point where he is pulled and replaced by Osgood. The Hawks go up 5-0 as veteran Denny Savard channels his 1980s self along with Joe Murphy, and they decimate the Wings 5-2. They're still alive, and the Chi-Town fans believe. But in Game 5, Belfour puts another goaltending clinic on. The Red Wings core of Fedisov, Konstantinov, Lidstrom, and Coffey and Howe are giving the Chicago Stars nothing. But it's 1-1 and we need overtime again. Correction, we need double overtime again. But in that frame, it only takes a couple minutes as Slava Kozlov scores. The Joe Louis Arena erupts. The Wings are going to their first Stanley Cup since 1966. Our hero has a chance to get on a very rare list of winning Stanley Cups with 3 different teams. The Hawks fought better than any of the Wings' opponents, but it was not meant to be. Our hero had a goal and 3 assists and was a +1 for 4 points. So in just 14 games, our hero had 16 points heading into the Stanley Cup Finals, 5th in playoff scoring and leading all defensemen. And you could make an argument for anyone on the Red Wings to be a consummate winner at this point. Fedorov likely being the front runner, but still, something Coffey has yet to accomplish, although he was very close, a lot of people agree, in 1985. But Fedisov has proven to be a huge acquisition for the defense. Lidstrom has been amazing, as has Konstantinov. Of course, there's Fedorov, the multi-dimensional two-way forward. Either way, if the Wings can pull this off, it has to be their defensive play that deserves the credit. It'd be hard to choose a consummate MVP in this one, but standing in their way is a team that knows all about defense. Why? Because they're coached by someone who has used similar methods of one Scotty Bowman, Hall of Fame player Jacques Lemaire, who Bowman coached all the 8 seasons he was in Montreal, and proved to be one of the best playoff players year in and year out. Lemaire was now coaching the New Jersey Devils, who had a great 93-94 season and were just 1 game away from making the Stanley Cup. This season they had a good year, but not a great one. They entered the playoffs as a 5th-seeded team, not all that bad whatsoever. The team, in addition to Lemaire's coaching, had great talent up front. Stéphane Richer and power forward clutcher Claude Lemieux. We'll be hearing about him later. Both with a great deal of playoff experience from their days in Montreal. You also have longtime popular Devils forward John McLean, 15-year veteran Neil Broughton, who joined the team early in a season trade, looking for his first Stanley Cup ring, but the real danger was on defense. You had the legendary Scott Stevens, young go-getter Scott Niedermayer, plus veterans Tommy Alberline, Bruce Driver, and tough Ken Danico. And in goal, a 23-year-old sophomore by the name of Martin Brodeur. They took out Boston quite breezily in 5 games, shocked the Pittsburgh Penguins. Even without Mario Lemieux in the lineup, looked like to be an odds-on favorite, but the Devils outed them in 5 games. And perhaps the top odds-on favorite in the East, the Philadelphia Flyers, were beaten in 6 games as the Devils advanced their first cup ever. But let's face it, as talented as this bunch is, no chance against this Wings team. They're just too complete. And this neutral zone trap deal they're trying to perfect? Like that'll last. Game 1 in Detroit is packed to the gills. The crowd can taste it. Finally, 40 years of misery since their last Stanley Cup win. It comes down to this. It can all end. They now have the longest active cup drought in the NHL, but Steve Yzerman can live up to that promise that was put upon him when he was drafted 12 years ago. Fedorov can prove he's a man. Our hero can be a man who said he was a key factor in not 1, not 2, but 3 different franchises winning the big one. And for him, it'd be his 5th ring. Game 1, the Devil system is working. This Vernon has to face more action than he has in the entire playoffs, and to his credit, actually makes some very big saves. He has major playoff experience, having won a cup himself in Calgary, this being his 3rd Stanley Cup final. The Wings, however, can't even seem to get close to Brodeur. Be that as it may, it's tight 1-1 game in the 3rd period when Claude Lemieux, however, does what he does best and nets the game winner early in the frame. The Devils' defense in their trap system hold the Wings to 17 shots and they lose 2-1. They dropped the first game. Okay, nothing to panic about. This Devils team has been amazing in the playoffs, but game 2 will be a different story, and it's another tightly contested defensive clinic on both sides, and Fedorov scores early in the 3rd to give the Wings a 2-1 lead. However, they fall apart completely. 1, 2, 3? The Devils win it 4-2? Despite playing some of the best actual defense in his career, Coffey has been heavily exposed in this series, to so far a -3. Lidstrom too is taken apart. How is this happening? The Wings need to get motivated and get beaten in New Jersey for Game 3? What the f***? A 5-2 loss? Has the world gone topsy-turvy or Thompson twins? Give me a break! No, there's no way they can actually sweep this. Yep, they do. The Devils win their first ever Stanley Cup. The protege outcoached the mentor. And for Bowman, his first Stanley Cup final loss since 1970. The Devils did everything right here. They saw the weaknesses in the Red Wings. The Stars, the Sharks, and the Blackhawks just were unable to see and quite frankly didn't have the talent to do, but the Devils did. After 13 years of being one of the best blue liners in the league, Scott Stevens is a champion. Neil Broughton finally has a ring. But for the Wings, it's devastation. Our hero is one of the many scapegoats as why this series went so wrong. Coffey had a goal and an assist for 2 points and was a -3. And while he did play poorly, he was far from the worst player in this series. Nicholas Lidstrom had a brutal outing, as was Yzerman. Fedorov was probably the only one who could say he played well in this series, but that's like saying the napkins are good at a bad restaurant. Despite this, Coffey had his best season in Detroit to date and maybe one of the best of his career. 14 goals, 44 assists for 58 points, and a +18. He led his team in scoring for the first time in his career, led all defensemen in the league, and was tied for 6th in the league scoring overall. Won his 3rd Norris Trophy as a league's top defenseman, was named the first team All-Star for the 4th time in his career, 4th place in Hart Trophy voting, and helped lead the Red Wings to their first Stanley Cup Finals appearance in 29 years. Despite the heartbreak, the Red Wings looked more determined than ever to get back to the big dance again in the 95-96 season. There's really no notable rift between Coffey and Bowman at this point, at least not publicly, but clearly Bowman wasn't happy with the way Coffey played in the finals. Granted, he felt that way about a lot of players in that finals series. Coffey was also a prime target of the Detroit sports media at the time as well. Either way, he and the Red Wings were determined to shake it all off, and early in the season a trade was made to acquire Igor Larionov. Remember him? Wait a minute. Fedorov, Kozlov, Konstantinov, Fetisov, and Larionov. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 Russian hockey players. The Russian 5. Ho-ho! Indeed, this is the birth of the group that would change the Red Wings and their strategy forever. Scotty Bowman, at 63 years old and coaching since the late 1960s, always finds new way to implement strategic methods to make his team successful, even in these 1990s. With the Russian 5 in full force, Fedorov had another huge year with 107 points. Yzerman was back in scoring form with 95, and Coffey was third on the team with 74 on the year. The Wings toured through the NHL that year. There was also a notable 11-1 win in Montreal, where their coach, Mario Tremblay, or as I call him, that another former Habs player Bowman coached in the 1970s, held a grudge for how he was treated. Yeah, I'm sure those 4 Stanley Cup rings really just fuel your anger and hatred. Anyway, Tremblay made the mistake of beaking off to the media about Bowman, so this coach that's in way over his head and shouldn't have a job to begin with is taught a harsh lesson. The Russian 5 just completely destroyed the Habs, letting up star goaltender Patrick Waugh for 9 of those goals. Yeah, I doubt that'll come back to haunt him in any way. Anyway, our hero had 3 assists in that game. And the Red Wings that year set a record. 62 wins. Breaking a record set by the 1976-77 Montreal Canadiens, coached by, you guessed it, Scotty Bowman. As a matter of fact, the top 4 teams on this list were coached by Bowman, and Coffey played for 2 teams on this list, this year's Wings, and of course the '84 Oilers. The Wings, however, fell 1 point short of the Habs single-season record of 132, set in that 1976-77 season. But either way, it was one of the best regular seasons in NHL history. It was only the 3rd time in Coffey's career that he failed to average a point a game, but regardless, 74 points in 76 games, and was 3rd among defensemen in scoring. 13th time in his 16-year career he finished the top 5 in that category. He also finished the year with a plus 19 and came in 5th in Norris Trophy voting. This would however be the last year Coffey would reach any of those accomplishments. But speaking of accomplishments, on December 13, 1995, on this goal right here, scored by Igor Larionov, Coffey becomes the first defenseman and only the 4th player in NHL history to reach 1,000 assists, joining an elite and exclusive club. So how did our hero fare? The Stars, who both had excellent years? We'll start with Steve Yzerman, 36 goals and 59 assists for 95 points in 80 games. Out of Yzerman's 36 goals, Coffey assisted on 7, tied for second best on the team with Fedorov. And behind fellow blue liner, Nick Lidstrom, still 19.4%. Out of Coffey's, again 14 goals this year, Yzerman assisted on 2 of them. As for Fedorov, Coffey assisted on 10 of his 39 goals. That's just over a quarter. Remarkable, and of course best on the team, but Larionov was just behind him at 9. Out of Coffey's 14 goals, Fedorov assisted on 5, more than a third of them. So now we look at assist collaborations. Fedorov had 66 on the year, leading the team. And Coffey, for the first time, is not in the top 4. Lidstrom, who had a career year, leads the way, but it's a tight margin. Larionov and Kozlov are tied at 8. Fetisov rounds out at 7. Where is our hero? He is tied for 6th with Konstantinov. Methinks Bowman might be onto something with this Russian 5. It's made all the more impressive, however, that Konstantinov and Fetisov are not known for their offensive input. However, Lidstrom was only just starting to do that very thing. He was having a career year. As for Yzerman and his 59 assists, Coffey runs away with it 13. However, 4 on this list are defensemen. 2 of 4 on Fedorov's were defensemen. And the next 2 behind them were both defensemen. Clearly Bowman wanted this team to be was coming to fruition. And now we're ready for playoff time. Of course, the Red Wings are the top seed, but hey, they won the President's Trophy again. Anyway, their first round will be against the Winnipeg Jets, who are about to leave the city and relocate to Phoenix. Be mediocre with some false hope and outright terrible seasons for the next 25 years, ending up in an arena that's probably the size of one of Lady Gaga's bedrooms. I'm sorry, I digress. The Jets team had the likes of Craig Janney, Keith Tkachuk, Ed Olczyk, Dave Manson leading the defense, and a sensational goaltender they called the Boulin Wall. Anyway, yes, the last games in Winnipeg will have them facing this tough Detroit team. The first 2 games are easy at the Joe Louis Arena. Goff even scored the nail in the coffin power play goal to win in Game 1 and Game 2 as our hero had a shorthanded goal on a 2-point night. They take both games 4-1 and 4-0 respectively. Winnipeg has only a combined 30 shots in the first 2 games. The defense is doing their job. However, Game 3 in Winnipeg, it's insane. The fans believe in their Jets. That must have paid off because veteran Mike Vernon gets the start like Osgood needed the rest. And he has no answer for his counterpart, Nikolai Khabibulin. He puts on a show. Kachuk, Ginny, and Olchuk are all on fire. It's a shocking 4-1 win for Winnipeg. Well, that's good they gave their fans one last thing to cheer about. However, the Russian 5, along with Lidstrom and Coffey, make sure the Jets have nothing to cheer about in what should be their final home game at the Winnipeg Arena. 6-1 the final score, and the Wings have only lost 3 games at home this year. No way they lose Game 5. Oh, but I forgot to mention one of those 3 losses was to the Jets, and the Jets shocked their fans and the Wings in Game 5. Khabibulin stops 51 shots. Coffey is especially not altogether in this game, and we're off to Game 6 in Winnipeg, but the Cinderella story is not to be. Kozlov scores 2 goals, and the Wings defense puts on another clinic. Held the Jets to just 13 shots in a 4-1 win to advance to the next round. Coffey was pretty good in the series, but not great. 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 points, and was a -3. Now awaiting the Red Wings, a so-so St. Louis Blues team, led of course by the amazing Brett Hull, as well as Al McInnes, young Chris Pronger, Shane Corson, and Wayne Gretzky? Yes, Gretzky was sent from LA to St. Louis shortly after the All-Star break. But you wonder, how are they only so-so with a team like this, Hall of Famers and whatnot? Because Mike Keenan, post-Stanley Cup win, is their coach. That would be why. A team like this, which also includes veterans such as Dale Hawerchuk, are looking for their first Stanley Cup. It's quite a club, but they did beat Toronto in a grueling 6-game series, but lost star goaltender Grant Fuhr early on, Coffey's former teammate in Edmonton. But their backup was John Casey, who knows all about miracle playoff performances. This will be the first time Gretzky and Coffey face one another in a playoff series. Game 1 is a tight-knit affair, and Chris Osgood has to play the game of his life here as the Red Wings defense had trouble continuing the Blues' onslaught, but the young goalie persevered. Our hero had 2 assists, and the game winner scored by Fedorov with just over 2 minutes to play. Game 2, however, the Wings wrecked John Casey, and Steve Yzerman plays one of the best games of his career with a 5.9, a huge 8-3 win to take both games at home as the series just to St. Louis. In Game 3, the Blues are a lot more focused and disciplined. They lead 3-1, but lose the lead and are down 4-3 in the third period, but knuckle dragger Tony Twist, however, ties the game midway through the third, and we'll need OT to solve this one, and Igor Kravchuk scores the OT winner early on. The Blues are still in this thing. Game 4, the Red Wings defense holds the Blues to 15 shots, but the bad news is John Casey stops all 29 of the ones he faced, and Gretzky gets past Osgood. The series is tied. The Blues brothers, Gretzky and Hall, look superb once again, as did John Casey. 37 saves, they completely stunned the Wings in Game 5 for a 3-2 win. Clutch goaltending, folks. And Osgood did not have that. Our hero plays poorly and has a -2. Game 6, the Blues fans are the loudest they've been in years, but they are silenced as the Wings have a 3-0 lead in the third period. The Blues wake up a little bit with 2 quick goals late in the third, but Lidstrom silences them and it's a 4-2 win. We're off to Game 7. The game is filled with tension. The Wings shouldn't even be at this point, many feel. But John Casey is a wall. The Red Wings defense is doing their thing. It's scoreless after all 3 periods. We need overtime for this one, but Casey is still not giving anything up. But just over a minute into the second overtime, Gretzky loses the puck. Yzerman carries in and shot. It's over! Oh, the Wings win! The Wings win! The Wings win! But Detroit is not looking so dominant in these playoffs. But they once again are in the conference finals, and that's what matters. Coffey has no goals, but he had 4 assists. It was even on the plus-minus. Again, not outstanding, but not bad at all. Awaiting the Wings in the conference final, however, are the Colorado Avalanche, who until the end of the 1995 season were the Quebec Nordiques. They're the second best record in the Western Conference, are led by the great Joe Sakic, Peter Forsberg, Valery Kamensky, Claude Lemieux, Craig Wolanin leading the defense, and in net, Patrick Waugh. Yes, after that little 9-goal game he gave up to the Red Wings, he got into it with Mario Tremblay and was traded days later. Either way, this is going to be an exciting series, and it has all the makings of one. In Game 1 from Detroit, our hero scores a goal into his own net while they're on the power play. What the f***? I mean, well, he did teach Steve Smith a lot, but anyway. The Avs take a 2-1 lead, and our hero makes up for his folly and ties the game, and we're out to overtime. Late in the period, however, Mike Keane scores the winner, and the Avs take Game 1. The media is vile towards Coffey and his gaffe. Game 2, however, the Red Wings are finding it hard to score 9 goals on Patrick Roy. As a matter of fact, they score 9 less than that, and he shuts them out. Osgood again, not looking good. The Avs win 3-0, taking both games in Detroit. Oy, oy, oy. In Game 3, Coffey is out. The Wings defense, well, they do well. Osgood does not. He lets in 4 goals, however, walled in 6. A terrible game for him, but Lidstrom is a beast in this one, and the Wings are back in the series. Coffey is still out for the next game, and Waugh is back to himself. And the Avs are pulling off a massive team effort, but Osgood chokes again. The Wings are on the verge of elimination, heading back home. Coffey is back in the lineup, and he has 2 assists, and Osgood finally starts goaltending, for crying out loud. The Russian 5 are on the attack. It's a 5-2 win, and the Wings are still alive. So here it comes, Game 6 in Denver, the game where Claude the Claude introduces Chris Draper's face to the boards. The Avs win the game 4-1 and the series 4-2. We're kicking off one of the biggest rivalries in sports in the late 1990s. And hey, it's not all bad. The Avalanche go on to win the Stanley Cup, and Patrick Roy gets his 3rd ring, so yay. Coffey only played 4 games. He had 3 goals and 2 assists for 5 points. It was again on the even side of plus-minus. He was an unfair scapegoat and lost, clearly, due to his gaffe in Game 1. However, when I say unfairly scapegoated, I mean this. Chris Osgood, instead of Vernon, you acquire Mike Vernon because he has that playoff experience. Again, the man has played in 3 cup finals now. And again, Eiserman faded away. Lidstrom was even more brutal here than he was in the Stanley Cup finals the year prior. But in Coffey's case, once again, he played decently, but not great. That seems to be the story in these playoffs, and his Game 1 mistake lingered in the offseason. The relationship between he and Scotty Bowman, which had always been cold, but at least civil while he was in Detroit, was getting worse. Despite Coffey playing the best actual defense in his career that he has ever played, it seemed as though he couldn't adapt to Bowman's playoff system. And while it may not be overly known at the time, Eiserman was mere inches away from being on the chopping block himself. Lidstrom was given a pass because his game was still evolving and was still a few years away from his best years, and he was getting better every year. Bowman would do something about the Osgood issue without actually getting rid of him, but Coffey's days in Detroit were numbered. He would never suit up for the Red Wings again. But Coffey's season wasn't a total failure again. He had 14 goals, 60 assists for 74 points, and was a +19. He played in his 13th NHL All-Star game and finished 3rd in defensive scoring. His 13th top 5 finish. Became the first defenseman and only the 4th player ever to reach 1,000 assists. He was 5th in Norris Trophy voting as well. There is no doubt that Paul Coffey's time in Detroit is the most debated era of his career. Although, what we're about to get to in Part 4 could also rank right up there as well. He accomplished a lot, however, in Detroit in his short time there, just 3.5 seasons. But this is it for him in Detroit. We explain more about his departure in Part 4 in the final part of our series, entitled 5 Years, 5 Teams, The End. Thank you all again for watching. Please hit subscribe and that notifications bell. Also, give the video a like, and if you have any suggestions on other hockey players you'd like to hear me talk about, I am open for suggestion. Until then, so long.